Hey, it's Evelyn from Class with Prof. Eve, and we are going to have a much more realistic class in this video. I have my clipboard, my giant posted clipboard here, which will serve as my whiteboard for this video. And I want to just kind of go through my decision method, my 24-hour decision method, but I also want to talk to you a little bit about my framework for making tough decisions. Now, this is a method that I put together specifically for women, but I am sure that it would work for men as well. So try it out and let me know. Men, definitely recommend this to the women in your life. That would be great. But everyone can check this method out. I think it's effective to almost anyone. But since I'm a woman and I work with women, I'm designing things specifically for women. So what I've attached in the description box is a link where you can provide your email, and then you'll get a free copy of my E.V.E. framework. You like that? E.V.E. framework? And then within that framework, within the same document, it's a Google Doc, you will have a 6-step method to make a tough decision within 24 hours. So let's start with the E.V.E. framework. And if I did not mention, I am Evelyn, and this is my channel, Class with Prof. Eve. So what is the E.V.E. framework? Well, the E stands for evaluate the reality. Evaluate the reality. Let me bring you a little bit closer. Should be a little more visible. Have to get a darker marker next time. So the E of the E.V.E. framework is evaluate reality. I'll explain what each of these are in detail and how they show up in the 6-step method to making the 24-hour decision in a moment. But first, I'll just write out what the E, V, and E stand for in the decision-making framework. V is verify alignment. And the last E is execute with integrity. Okay? So this is my E.V.E. decision-making framework. Evaluate, oh goodness, all's fine, don't worry. Evaluate the reality, verify alignment, and execute with integrity. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that you all can see that. One more time, evaluate the reality is E, verify alignment is the V, and the last E is execute with integrity. Okay, so I want to explain what each of these things mean. I'll bring you in maybe a little bit closer again so that you can see the board. Okay. So what does evaluate the reality mean in the context of this decision-making framework? Well, the first thing that I have you do when you are going through the 6 steps, the first step is tapping into this portion of evaluating the reality. So you're asked a series of questions, and in this Google Doc, you can print it and fill in everything, or you can type directly into the document. So you have options for how you fill it out, but there is space in the document for you to write several, sentences if you need to. So when you're evaluating the reality of your decision, then you are really clarifying what exactly the decision is. What is this decision that you need to make? Because sometimes that is unclear. And so actually taking the time to write out what is the decision in the first place? And why do I need to make this decision? Who says that I need to make this decision? So you're starting to assess where your concerns and blockages around being able to make that decision is stemming from. And as a sociologist, this is so important to just about every, aspect of life, in my opinion, where there's an internal assessment, and then you also have to examine the external factors that are influencing that assessment, and even the interpersonal dynamics, right? So one of the questions in the guide, and I think that's also in the evaluate reality section, is whose voice am I hearing when I think about this decision? Because often we're worried about what other people are going to think, how our, family members are going to respond. Are people going to think that I'm stuck up or bougie? Are people going to think that I'm unqualified to take this particular stance? All of these kinds of questions, and especially for women, this is something that just plagues us. Even confident, assured, successful women, it happens. Because most of us live in a society and in a culture where when we take a firm stance, we make decisions for ourselves, they're questioned, right? They're scrutinized in ways that men's decisions may not be. And then we start to second guess ourselves and think, oh, maybe I'm not qualified to make this decision. And that just weakens your confidence in general. Okay, so really digging into what is this decision? What's influencing my strain and tension around making this decision? The V, verify alignment. Now, I am not only a college professor, I'm also a Reiki practitioner. And what Reiki is a way to tap into your just natural life force energy that everyone has. So there's nothing magical about it in that way. We all have energy in our body, just like there's energy in the atmosphere and in the world, in the natural environment. We have that in our body, and it keeps our body alive and flowing. And so when we don't feel well, whether mentally or physically, then usually there is some energetic misalignment going on. And so what I love about Reiki is that it helps to balance your energy and also assess the particular areas in which your energy is constricted, all the way down, head to toe. And so there's going to be another video that I post about Reiki in particular, and you will hear directly from my Reiki teacher, Chiquita Davis. So that will be wonderful. Look out for that. But energy work is a very important part of my coaching and consulting business, as well as my personal life. I, pay a lot of attention to this, and I do this sort of work individually on myself, with myself, as well as my children and everything else. So I believe that tapping into our energetic levels, making sure they're balanced, understanding the different chakras and ways in which energy flows throughout our body is really important for our overall functioning. So there are questions within this method that ask you about how do you feel, where you're really tapping into your somatic responses. When I think about this decision and I think about, making this choice, how does my body feel? Does my body feel tight all of a sudden? Does it feel happy and light? Do I become worried all of a sudden and my heart starts beating really fast? Those sorts of things are indicators, and they're really a part of our intuitive intelligence. Because intuition is nothing but your body's natural reactions trying to let you know about whatever's happening, give you some information about whatever's happening. And that's coming naturally. And that's something that we should be paying the most attention to. Instead of all that external noise and what everybody else is saying, how do we feel when we do certain things and we make certain decisions? Because really that's the core of it. That's essential. So we assess those kinds of things, how we're literally feeling about the decision and how we feel when we choose specific options. Because within this method, you will identify, okay, what are the options that I have? Maybe there's only 2 options that you have when you're making this decision. Maybe there's 6 options that you have. And again, going through this process helps you to identify the options that may exist, because, how often do we sit down and really think about all of the potential avenues and options that we have when making decisions? We just kind of think about them and make them, right? Maybe consult with a few people, which may or may not be the right thing to do. But actually going through this method, writing things down, reflecting and thinking about it, there's probably going to be some new things that come up just in that process. So how does it make you feel? Does it align with your values, with who you are, with who you know yourself to be? That's another part of this verify with alignment piece. Okay? All right, the last E of the E.V.E decision making framework is execute with integrity. Execute with integrity. One thing that I love about coaching is that we are not trying to have sessions with clients for 5 years. You know, if a client comes back and does different types of programs and uses different services, that's great. But if you're working through a particular issue in coaching, we're not trying to hold you for a whole year. You know, usually most programs and offerings, packages is what they're typically called, are like 3 months max, maybe 6 months. But our goal is to equip you and help you really discover the things that are already there. That's first. But then also equip you with resources, with tools to help you to begin to navigate differently and implement different strategies regarding the thing that you're dealing with, the struggle that you're having. So we want action, we want change. We don't want to just it's not therapy in the way that, you know, we're trying to do more than just hear your story. So this execution piece is really important, and it's so important in so many different ways. I was thinking about even religious beliefs and religious doctrines like the Bible or the Quran, where they both mention, you know, faith without works is dead. You know, that you need to believe, but also there, you know, with the 5 pillars of Islam, for example, yes, you need to believe in, you know, the God and one and only God and the Prophet Muhammad, but you also need to do certain things. Your lifestyle needs to look a certain way. Your actions need to be a certain way. So there's always an action that has to accompany our intentions and our beliefs and our values. They should show up in the way that we exist every day. They should show up in our actions. So we are going to get you to execute that decision, but not just execute it with integrity. This is the last part of the 6-step method. So by the time you get to this stage, you have assessed what this decision is, who or what is influencing the decision, how you feel, what the various options are that you have, how you feel about each one of those options. Are they aligned with who you believe yourself to be? You've gone through all of that by the time you reach this point. So when you land on a decision, the last part of this method says, if I had to choose within 24 hours, I would do what? And you list out what you would do. And you close that method by saying, by this date and time, I'm going to implement this decision. And there's a place for a signature where you sign your name, pledging to yourself that you are going to move on this decision. So we've gotten the execute part and you see the integrity part. All right. So this is the E.V.E framework, you all. Isn't it great? Definitely check out this method. Check out the framework in more detail. It's posted in the description box. I would love to hear your feedback, what you think about it. Use it, try it out, whether it's a decision about meal planning, whether you should get married, whether you should ask for a raise at your job. It applies to all kinds of different decisions that adults have to make. Okay, so I'd love to hear your feedback, and I will see you all in my next video. Peace.